What if Tensura, the Jewel of Tempest? By KatarinaTempest. Rimuru was taking a break after the entire orc invasion incident and decided to take a stroll through the forest. While walking along, he runs into a monster that was run out of their home by the orcs and lost their entire family to the attack. With nowhere to call home and no family to go back to, Rimuru accepts the monster into the new and growing town as his adopted daughter. The story will follow the main story beats of the light novel, but events will be changed due to a close bond forming between Rimuru and the new monster. The bond will be explored along with the world around the two of them, giving more depth to the characters and allowing them to move outside of the main story's narrative. Chapter 5. Mischievous Dragon. Katarina's POV. I climbed into my bed after a long day swimming and having fun. To say I was tired would be an understatement. I am completely worn out. I had a ton of fun though, so it's fine. I lay there remembering all the fun we had for a while as I tried to drift off to sleep, and wow, was there a lot to remember. We started the day off with a lovely picnic, which Shin tried to ruin, followed by swimming and just generally playing in the water. I didn't really need to cool off during the summer thanks to my resistances, but it still felt amazing regardless. Between the water splashing fights and the more relaxing fishing, I could tell that everyone who came with us had an amazing time as well. I was glad I got to spend such a great day with everyone, and I really feel that it brought all of us closer together. That said, I just know Hakyuru is going to make training hell tomorrow now that we had a day to slack off. "Good night, Cat," she responded. With a quick good night to Great Sage so she didn't feel left out or lonely, I finally let my eyes close fully and sleep take me. I'm not sure why I picked up the habit of telling Great Sage good night, but I just did it once and decided to keep doing it. She sounded happy when I did it the first time, and I wanted to continue making her happy. Not a second after falling asleep, I was confused as I looked out into the vast darkness that stretched out ahead of me. Where the heck am I? Is this a dream? I started exploring the area, feeling solid ground beneath my feet even as my confusion grew. "Hello," I shouted into the void. I wasn't really expecting an answer as I didn't see anyone around, so consider my shock when I suddenly heard a laugh behind me. "Kuhahata, I'm glad you could make it, little one." I spun around towards the voice only to see darkness ahead of me once more. What is happening? Am I imagining things? Doubt started to creep into my thoughts, but before it could take over, I decided to just take the direct approach and deal with any resulting problems afterward. "Show yourself, immediately," I shout into the void where I heard the voice. "Little one, look up and you will see me," came the response. I let out a little sigh before slowly obeying and tilting my head up. What greeted me were two massive eyes that shone solid gold, just like Dad's. It took me a while for my sight to adjust to what I was seeing, but before too long I was able to make out his entire body. He is a dragon, a real-life dragon. Well, this is a dream, but still. His scales are black, so I guess that is why I couldn't see him at first. A massive dragon covered in black scales stood before me. Looking more like a Western-style dragon that I have read about, his scales seemed to be impenetrable, and his very figure radiated strength. With a dark blue underbelly that helped to outline his shape against the void, the only word for what I was seeing was magnificent. "Who are you, and where am I?" "I am the great and mighty storm dragon Veldora Tempest," he proclaimed proudly. "Wait, Veldora, as in the protector of the forest," I said, shocked. Wasn't he supposed to have disappeared some time ago? This is where he is. Speaking of which, where is here? I guess I better get back to asking questions while he is still tolerating my presence. One thing I did notice already is that I couldn't use any of my skills here, meaning I couldn't see his soul to judge his mood or see what type of person he really was. The one and the same, Cat. As for where we are currently inside of Rimuru's isolated space. I brought your consciousness here so that we could meet. Veldora supplied this very helpful information without more prompting. Wait, you know my name. Is it because only my consciousness is here that I can't use my skills? Why are you inside of Dad? Okay, well, maybe I was asking too many questions at once, but it's not often someone like me gets to meet a true dragon. I truly was acting like a child right now whose curiosity would never be satisfied. Hey now, slow down. I will answer your questions, but you must give me time to do so first, Veldora said sternly. Oh no, I think I made him mad. He got louder suddenly when I started to rapid-fire questions like that. Sorry, sir. I didn't mean to make you mad, I said, while seeming to shrink under his stare. Now, it's all right. I'm not mad. As for your questions, I know your name because I have been watching you. Your skills are indeed unavailable here because they are connected to your soul, which wasn't brought here. Lastly, I am inside of Rimuru because he is helping me to break out of the prison I am locked inside of. Wow, this is a lot to process. I took a seat on the ground as I thought about everything that was said for a moment. He was watching me. That doesn't sound creepy at all, but maybe he can see me through Dad's eyes or something. The whole not being able to use my skills is annoying, but at least Veldora seemed friendly enough so I wouldn't need to use them. As for that last part, what is your relationship to Dad? I mean, he is helping you to break out of prison. That isn't something you just do for anyone, right? What? Rimuru hasn't told you about me. Oh no, he seemed mad again, and maybe a little sad. At least that is what the volume of his voice and quivering lower lip suggested. That is so mean of him. Well, I will just have to tell you myself then, Veldora boldly proclaimed. I am Rimuru's brother, not by blood, of course, but brothers regardless. Wait, so if you are Dad's brother, does that make you my uncle? This is so unbelievably cool. No one would believe me if I told them a true dragon was my uncle. Having a true dragon relative, even if not by blood, might have sparked an idea in the back of my mind, wondering if I could become as strong as a true dragon as well someday. It wasn't realistic, of course, but a girl can dream. Ah, yes, I suppose it does mean that now, doesn't it? Veldora, there you are. Oh, and who is this? Another voice said from behind Veldora. I'm KatarinaTempest. Who are you? There was a person covered in flames now standing next to Uncle Veldora, and I was starting to wonder just how many people Dad has locked up inside of here. I better behave or he might put me in here. I took a couple of steps back from the flame person because I didn't want to risk getting burned when I don't have access to my skills. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. You can call me Ifrit. You are the spirit Dad talked about. It's nice to meet you. You don't seem like a bad person, although I do have my doubts after what I was told about you. For my actions, I am deeply regretful, and I wish there was some way I could make up for them, Ifrit said, his words filled with honesty. He really has changed, you know. Ifrit isn't the same person he was before. He has learned a lot from me while here, Uncle spoke up once more. Yes, I have. By the way, are you still analyzing the unlimited imprisonment? You don't have to remind me. Uncle sounded shocked, and also a little hurt at the sudden comment. I only understood part of what they were talking about, but to me, it seemed like Ifrit was the mature one here. Uncle was really intimidating, but Ifrit knocked him down a peg just by reminding him to keep analyzing the prison. Uncle, you better work hard to get free. If you don't give it your all, then I will tell Dad. No, I will work hard, I promise. Just don't tell Rimuru that I have been slacking off a little bit, Veldora said this while giving me puppy dog eyes. Oh geez, it seems like I was right on my guess. This is kind of sad. Dad and I are working so hard on the outside to get stronger, and here Uncle is slacking off and not trying to improve at all. Kuahaha, I am the Storm Dragon. I can do anything I set my mind to. This prison is nothing to someone like me, after all, Veldora proclaimed once more. Their uncle goes boasting again. He is like a child trying to boost his own ego. Then again, I am childish too, as I love to get complimented by people, I thought, even as I shook my head in disappointment. Well then, this prison should have been broken already, right? I questioned him, curious as to why he hadn't broken it already if he was so great. Niece, why don't you read some of these sacred texts while you are here? I walked towards Uncle to see what these sacred texts are, and much to my disappointment, they are manga. He has been reading these. Dad has so many books that can teach about so many things, and he is reading fiction. Okay, so maybe I am a pragmatist who is hooked on learning everything she can, but doesn't he know that manga is for entertainment and not some sacred text? Uncle, those are manga. They are fiction. You would be better off reading something useful, like a book on combat strategies or something. Disappointment was clear as day when I spoke up once more, not holding back my punches in the hope he would start putting in some hard work to improve. To say I was just a little bit annoyed would be an understatement, as Uncle wasn't trying to get free or improve himself while stuck in here. I am most certainly going to tell Dad about this. I don't have any alternative motives while trying to get Uncle free sooner. That said, it would be amazing to ride on the back of a dragon. Suddenly, I felt myself getting pulled away from this place, and I figured that I must be waking up outside. At least, that is the only explanation I could think of that made sense. Hey, I think I'm going to wake up soon, so make sure you work hard from now on. If you get really strong, I'm sure Dad will reward you when you get free. Ifrit, take care. Please watch over Uncle for me. I managed to bid farewell and give Uncle a little pep talk, even as I started to fade away. I'm sure I will get to meet them again soon, so there wasn't any need to be sad about leaving. I did need to make a mental note to ask Dad about all this, though, as it seems like he left out a lot of information when telling me about his life. I wasn't able to hear either of them respond to my last few words, but I'm sure that Ifrit at least would listen and do his best to keep Uncle on track. Opening my eyes, I saw the sunlight coming through my window and stretched out as I slowly woke up. Not a few seconds after I finished getting dressed, I heard Dad knocking on the door to say breakfast was ready. Third-person POV. Veldora was standing in the middle of the void thinking about many things. Seeing Katarina in person had turned his thoughts inward, and while he was fairly certain that he knew her, the meeting had only solidified the fact. Honestly now, I am no good at keeping secrets. How can I keep the information from her when she deserves the right to know? Veldora spoke into the void. You made a promise not to talk about certain events, and from what you have told me, that is a promise you don't want to break, Ifrit said while walking up beside Veldora. You are right, but that doesn't mean it can't feel wrong to keep the information from her. Maybe I can tell her small pieces here and there, while keeping the promise that I made. Veldora was deep in thought while trying to figure out a solution, the slightest bit of fear lacing his words as he spoke about getting around the promise he made. Rimuru's POV. Back at the start of the night. Yes, she just passed out. I have made sure she won't wake up until morning as well. With that brief exchange, I headed into the sealed cave to start practicing once more. I have spent the past few weeks practicing at night when everyone else is asleep to improve myself and my mastery over my skills. After seeing Katarina so focused on improving herself to help safeguard the city, I felt obligated to improve as well. Call me an overly protective father, but while Katarina is working to get stronger so people can lean on her for help, I am trying to get stronger so she can lean on me. I wasn't expecting trouble to befall our city, of course, but in a world like this, it is better to be prepared and never need it than unprepared and caught off guard. If I learned one thing from the orc invasion, that was it. Many people lost their lives due to not expecting the attack, and the few who did survive still held scars from the experience. My goal is simple: never let something like that happen again. The lingering fear I see in Katarina's eyes when she thinks no one is looking, the nightmares that sometimes plague her dreams, the terror that has hounded her, and caused her to improve at a pace most would think reckless. All of this had changed something in me. Knowing the pain and suffering she had gone through at such a young age solidified my desire to protect her from the harsh world we lived in. And for that, I would need to get stronger. With a simple command, the entire area was filled with lightning, fire, and wind. Thankfully, I was in the deepest part of the caves, so no one would notice the sudden outpouring of magicules. But just to be safe, I also enclosed my testing area in several barriers to keep the outside world safe. I had to admit that being a slime did have its advantages at times. With the need to sleep removed, I effectively had an extra 8 to 10 hours to train each day, and I made the most of it. I managed to split the time I had to train in private into two main areas of training. The first area, and the one I was working on, is skills and magic. I admittedly didn't have much magic to work with right now, but I planned to change that whenever I traveled to a human city. With their great libraries, it would be easy to understand the nature of magic and the many types of magic that have been discovered by humans over the years. Skills, on the other hand, I had plenty of, and honestly, I sometimes thought I had too many. I was able to use all of my subordinate skills as if they were my own, with the downside of not knowing how to use them to maximum effectiveness. With so many skills at my disposal, it wasn't like I could just practice them while doing my other work, as most were far too dangerous to practice without a secluded area like the cave. The sealed cave, along with not needing to sleep, offered a perfect excuse to train my skills when no one else was around. I didn't want to use a skill and accidentally hurt someone, nor did I want my magicules to become too dense for the weaker monsters to handle while in town. The second part of the training session was focused on improving my physical combat skills and battle will. While I still trained with both Hakuru and Katarina in the training grounds, I focused my efforts while in the cave on creating new sword techniques and perfecting both my combat forms and battle will proficiency. The sword skills were fairly straightforward, as it consisted of creating an image of what I wanted and then practicing until I had something that worked. I couldn't test the effectiveness without a sparring partner though, which was unfortunate. I started to test the new sword skills I created in my free time by using them on Hakuru while training, and then going from there. I was also able to perfect the various forms that I already knew worked, making them even more refined until there was no wasted energy. Battle will is what I devoted most of the second half of the training time to as I refined my aura. Next to my skills, battle will was the most useful ability that I had at my disposal, as it let me fight on even footing with others that were stronger than me. It wasn't a be-all, end-all, of course, but being able to use battle will effectively could sometimes be enough to change the tide of a fight in one's favor. With each passing night that I tried, the familiarity I had with my skills increased, and my combat skills improved at a rapid pace. Training with others was still required to learn new combat forms and to make sure I didn't get rusty, but in the end, my goal was to perfect everything at my disposal. Notice, it is nearly morning. Yes, master. Like always, you seem to have gotten too lost in your focus to improve. Well, I can't deny that I lose track of time easily while training like this. Without any outside stimulus, one can hardly blame me for not noticing the passage of time either. Sigh. It was your imagination. Right, because of course it was. I better head back before everyone starts to wake up. I would hate for them to panic when I couldn't be found. Having slipped back into my house, I got started on breakfast as I knew Katarina would be hungry when she woke up. However, while cooking I was given some information I never expected. Katarina made contact with Tempest last night. It would seem she intends to ask you questions this morning about him. Affirmative. Veldora invited her to your isolated space to talk with her. One thing after another, Well, I guess it can't be helped. With Katarina knowing about Veldora now, I would need to speak to her about it. The last thing I needed was her speaking to other people about him before I was ready to release him, whenever that would be. With the sun starting to leak through the windows, I decided that it was about time to wake Katarina up and started to head up to her room. Knock, knock, knock. Kat, it's time for breakfast. I'll meet you downstairs when you are ready. Okay, I'll be down shortly. Good, it seemed like she was already awake. Heading back towards the kitchen, I started making the final preparations for breakfast, even as Katarina walked in just as I finished setting up the table. So, Kat, I heard you might have a few questions for me, I asked softly. I will happily answer any questions you might have, although I will ask that you don't tell anyone else about what you learn. I continued forward, hoping to set a boundary. If she shied away from asking questions just because she couldn't speak to others about it, then the questions weren't worth asking in the first place, after all. I already knew what Katarina would choose, as her curiosity has been insatiable ever since I first met her. I agree, and I have a lot of questions, and maybe some observations you might want to hear in return, Katarina said with a big smile. As expected, ask away. Why didn't you tell me you knew Veldora and that he is your brother? That makes him my uncle, which I think I would have the right to know, she said accusingly. Ouch, you are going right for the direct approach, aren't you? The reason I never told you is simple. I have no idea how long it will take to free Veldora, and I didn't want to get everyone's hopes up when it might take hundreds of years. As for the brother part, we consider ourselves friends and soul brothers, I answered while setting the food on the table for us. Oh, well, it might take longer than that. Katarina spoke up after a second, even as she slid into her chair. What do you mean? Curiosity was clear in my voice. I knew it would take a while to free him, but if she says it might take longer, there must be a reason. Well, Uncle decided to read manga instead of analyzing the prison he is trapped in. He calls it sacred text or something. I don't think he is taking the task of getting free seriously, Katarina mentioned casually. That idiot lizard, I couldn't hold back my frustration. Already done. Of course, smug face. Hearing a laugh from across the table, I looked at Katarina a little confused, but she quickly explained that she heard our quick conversation. Don't worry, Ifrit is there with him, and he is making sure Uncle stays on track as best he can. I couldn't help it. I had to laugh a little myself. The image of that spirit putting Veldora in his place, despite the power difference between them, the image was just too funny not to laugh at. I will have to reward Ifrit at some point in the future for his hard work. We should probably get started on our day then. I would hate to be late for practice with Hakyuru after we got to relax for the entire day yesterday. Yes, we should get going before we are late. Katarina seemed excited to get back to training. I had started to train with Katarina with the sword for an hour or two each morning now that she has improved enough to start the true training. Hakyuru was no longer holding back against her in training, and she was growing with each lesson. With both of us putting our all into the training, I was hoping that we might be able to beat that demonic instructor sometime soon, at least once. With the extra training I was putting myself through, I was able to hold my own against him, but I had yet to land a decisive blow against him. My patience wasn't infinite, but with each fight I further honed my skills, and upon seeing the improvements I made, it was possible to hold back the frustration. A couple of months later. Ah, what a blissful peace. It would be nice if this could last forever. That was wishful thinking, though, as Saoi picked that moment to send me a thought communication. Sir Rimuru, several hundred flying knights are headed directly for the city. Darn it, I jinxed it, didn't I, when hopping for everlasting peace? Well, there is nothing for it. We better start moving.